Thank you. Another way that you can engineer participation is by extending tasks from the textbook. This could involve some of the activities that I'm going to suggest to you today, or others that occur to you or that the students themselves suggest. And one of them, which has proven very successful in my experience with adult learners, is to bring some abstract items. Yes, you can bring actual plastic fruit or wooden blocks that look like specific things, but abstract items can actually work better with adult learners. They already have the world in their head. What the abstract items do, pieces of paper, pieces of fabric. I sometimes use little pom-poms that I bought at a craft shop, colored blocks, is that they allow the students to bring their own symbols and place them on those items. And you can use the items to represent language, nouns in the exercise, verbs in the exercise, or they can represent people and places and things in the exercise. And I would help them practice using the items before you let them play by themselves, but then make sure that you do give them a chance to play with the items by themselves. So for example, in this reading that we looked at about food, you could have a different block for each food, one for rice, one for beans, one for fish, one for chicken and lettuce. And as the students pick up the block, they can recall or talk about or read aloud the information in the text that relates to that particular food. And it might seem a little bit artificial, but that's the sociocultural understanding of how education works. It is artifice. You make relationships by creating them in the class. So if the blue block represents rice in this exercise, every time somebody is looking at a blue block or holding the blue block, they are talking about rice. In a simpler exercise, the items, the blocks, the pom-poms, the pieces of fabric can represent the nouns like the car, the dog, the phone, or they can represent yes and no. Pick up the blue one for yes, pick up the yellow one for no. Another way to extend the textbook is to interview somebody, have a role play in which the students themselves create a secret life, a new life, an unseen life for somebody who's in the book. The interesting thing about this exercise, besides obviously challenging the students to use language in a slightly creative way, is that it builds a kind of shared background world in English that only you and the students share. And this is a really important part of the sociocultural approach to language practice, that language takes on a kind of personal meaning. It has personal associations. And when all of the language that you interact with is just in the textbook as it appears, you don't have the chance to build up those personal associations. But if you were to take somebody from one of these pictures and have one of the students role play them and the other students interview that person, you then create a kind of secret world in which everybody in the class, but nobody else in the world outside the class participates. And that's an important stage, especially at low levels of proficiency, where students are not used to perhaps feeling that English belongs to them. It still feels very external to them. Now, I'm a big believer in dictation. I think dictation has a lot of value, not because of the focus on accuracy, although that can really help spelling and punctuation conventions, but rather because, again, it creates this kind of individual experience, a participatory experience for the students. You can dictate, students can dictate to each other, they can choose which sentences they would like you to dictate, and it helps them learn to listen in kind of structured ways. When you're dictating, speak naturally. Don't slow down. See how fake that sounds? Speak at a normal speed, but give longer pauses. That's how students learn to hear English in kind of chunks, the way we speak it. You can ask the students to dictate, or you can dictate. It's a great practice. You can have them dictate words, you can have them dictate spellings, you can have them dictate full sentences. This is from an article that is in a higher level reading, and these sentences are based on a text about communication around the world, and they are inferences. So the whole task in the textbook is an inference task. can you find evidence for these sentences in the article? But as a dictation task, it could be practice in hearing these new vocabulary words. You would probably not want to do too much worry about spelling for the proper nouns here, but you might have them practice punctuation or grammatical structures that are in the dictated sentences. Okay, take a look at the other PowerPoint for now. Choose a couple of exercises, excuse me, and talk about how you might extend through interview, through dictation, through other creative representation through abstract items, how you might ask students to play with the language a little bit to see how that would help enrich the student's ability to interact with a certain kind of agency and a certain kind of imagination with the language in the textbook.
Okay, so we're on breakout room number 2 in the PDF. What textbook extension choices could you make to engineer participation with these pages? So here I have the advanced level exercise first, and it's based on a video. And I just want to quickly, because this is going to be very long. So I want to share my ideas. Since you have the photograph of the woman here preparing coffee, I think this is a great page to use for what Darren suggested. She suggested interview a character. I actually used something similar to this with an advanced level class that I substituted for last semester. And we took a photo from the book like this, and they were going to be doing some creative writing in the class. So I wanted to introduce the idea of a character sketch. So I put them in pairs again, and I said, I'd like you to just look at that woman and invent a character, create a person out of that photograph. So I had them together decide, okay, what is this woman's name going to be? What's her background? Where does she live? Where has she lived before? Does she have, what's her educational background like? What is her personality like, or her character traits? What's her family like, or what are the important relationships in her life? And what are her goals and dreams? And it worked really well. It was really fun as a way to get them, talking to each other, using English as a tool to create a character. And it was very fun and very creative. So I had them in pairs write out their ideas about the character. And then we went around the room, and each pair got to tell the rest of the students about their character. So that's an example of how you could do a textbook extension from that page. And then I can't wait to read your ideas about what else you could do with that page or the next page with the numbers, which is for beginner level learners, okay, when I read your study guide responses. For now, back to Darren.